Welcome back to the Outfit Repeaters podcast. I'm Megan.
I'm Shelby.
And today we will be covering Season 1, Episode 12, An Icon, a Legend, Between a Rock and a Bra Place. Before we get there, Shelby, what are you reading? What are you watching?
Okay, so I am... Oh my gosh, Ralphie's playing in the Sephora box you sent me.
Cute.
I am still reading, A Court of Mist and Fury.
Okay.
I did get a lot more of it done over the past few days.
Yay.
I've had some more energy to read in the afternoons because we're winding school down and it's just, that time of the year.
Yes.
And then I am listening to her Night at the Museum, but Night with a K.
Okay.
It's just like one of those cheesy romance novels. I think it's getting turned into a Hallmark movie.
Cute. I feel like I'm about to look up the cover art because that sounds familiar to me.
It's by Bryn Donovan.
Okay.
It's where this girl works
Yes.
at a museum and it comes to life.
Okay, I have seen this. This looks cute.
It's cute. It's spicier than I thought it was going to be, which kind of was like, oh, like, that's going to be left out of the Hallmark movie, right? Like,
more than likely. They won't even
it's Hallmark.
This the last 15 minutes of the movie, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's Hallmark. We're G-rated around here. But I am going to be on the lookout for that one. It's a cute little book. I'm listening to it on audio, and it's the narrator is... I'm really, really particular about my audiobooks.
Same.
I will not listen to an audiobook if it's read by a man.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say that.
If it's read by a man, I'm like, I don't want a man talking to me. Leave me alone.
Same.
Or if it's like a dual author or like a dual narrator where it has like a woman reading the woman's perspective and a man reading the man's perspective, I'm like, nope, can't do it.
Really?
I don't want to hear a man's voice. I don't want to hear his opinions.
Why is a man here?
Why is the man here? And then, what really just, I think what did it in for me was I could talk for an hour about how much I hate this book, Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. I could talk for an hour. If I could give it less than 1 star on Goodreads, I would.
This is Shelby's Roman Empire, is how much she hates this book.
I DNF'd it. I tried to listen to it on audiobook, and the narrator... When it was the girl's perspective, it was a girl reading it. Mm-hmm. But when it was a man's perspective, it was a man reading it. But the guy that was reading, when the female main character would have dialogue, he would still try to read it in like a feminine voice.
Ew,
like a female, like he'd talk like this when he was trying to describe that.
I don't need that.
He was saying that. I'm like, just read the book. Just read the book. Oh my God, I am fired up.
So,
I hate this book.
if our listeners don't know, my day job, I am a paralegal at a law firm, and each Wednesday we do this like Who, What, Where Wednesday video post where we just like ask someone in the office a random question. And one of the recent questions that was asked to me was like, if I could sue anybody for anything, like real or not real, what would it be? And my answer was I would sue certain authors to get my time back for having read their book because it was such a waste.
Yes. And that book, literally, like, I don't mean to be a prune, but it is literally every single chapter, almost every single page. I'm like, there is no plot. There is no plot. So much is going on, but also nothing is going on. Like, Oh God, I hate it so much. Hannah Grace, if you ever listen to this, please do better. Please do better.
This is no longer a recap podcast. This is a Hannah Grace hate podcast.
I mean, I respect what you're doing, and you're an author, and that's great, but, like, maybe try a different trope.
Fair.
Anyway, so what are you listening to? What are you...
So I'm still listening to Master of Me by Kiki Palmer. I had just started that last week. I think I have, like, 2 hours left. I'm not loving it. I do love Kiki Palmer. However, this is very much a book, like, this is not a memoir or, like, short stories. This is very much a book about the industry, but not in, like, a fun, juicy, peek behind the curtain way. Like, this is about, like, the entrepreneurial spirit required to be in the industry, which I guess is cool if you're into that, but it
Yeah.
just like I'm just kind of like too far in to like quit now. So I'm just gonna finish it. I have probably like 60 or 70 pages left in Wild Love by Elsie Silver. It is my goal to finish that today, and then I will be moving on to Kingdom of Ash. I had to clear the slate before I was ready for that.
That's a
I'm
good one.
definitely, as soon as I finish Kiki's book, I'm definitely going to need a thriller, because I have to have a thriller audiobook for like a palate cleanser when I'm reading like something heavier, like fantasy or like romance or something like that. So, let me know if you guys have a suggestion for a good thriller on audio, and I will pick that up.
I was gonna say, so I just thought of this too. A book that I'm reading, because sometimes if like I want to read something I know I'm gonna really have to focus on, I'll read ACOTAR. But then if I'm wanting to read something that doesn't take as much brain power,
Yeah.
I have another backup book.
Yes.
So the title is gonna be kind of like make you do a double take, but it's my school librarian recommended it to. It's in our school library, people. Okay, so it's teenage. It's
Safe.
YA. It's called How to Hang a Witch.
Okay.
It's about this, and the back of it said, "Mean Girls meets historical fiction," and I said yes.
Adding it to the list literally right now.
Literally read it. Yes. I have a copy from my school library. It's about this girl. I've read the first chapter, and it says like this new girl. She moves to Salem, Massachusetts, and she's like being bullied or something by a group of girls called the Descendants,
Oh, okay.
like descendants of women that were like killed in the Salem witch trials.
Okay, pop off.
And but yeah, once it said Mean Girls meets historical fiction, I was like, yes, give it to me right now.
I can't get my app to work, but I'm just going to make a regular note.
I can't remember the author's name, but then there's a sequel too.
Ooh.
And I went ahead and picked up the sequel too because the books are only like 300 pages. If
Yeah.
that. And I forget what the sequel's called, but she starts like seeing ghosts from the Titanic.
Okay.
And the back
Love.
of the book says, will the infamous ship sink again? And I was like,
I'm in. I'm in.
I'm in for the ride.
Say less.
It doesn't take me much convincing, so.
Same. Same.
I can be entertained by just about anything. I don't know if that just means I have low expectations. Like some people will be like, that book was horrible. I was like, really? I loved it. Like, except Icebreaker.
Yeah.
I
feel that way about a lot of books. Like, books I will absolutely love, and people would be like, ugh. Like, you know, people are, like, super haters about Where the Crawdads Sing.
mean, it's
And I
not the
love it.
most well-written book ever. No. Was I gagged on the last page? Yeah. Look who's calling me.
Ellen.
Yeah.
Shout out, Ellen.
Can I call you back in a few? I'm podcasting. What? Say hi to the pod.
Hey, Pod.
Hey, Ellen.
Bye. I'm gonna leave that in there. But yeah, like I thought the movie was great. I loved that book. And then I know some people are also really big haters on Throne of Glass because they think it's boring, and I'm like, oh, what?
I will tie my thoughts up in a bow when I finish the last book, but I just don't know that this series was for me. But I've said it before, I think it's because it's so many books. I think my threshold for a series is like 4. So when you're like talking 5, 6, 7, 8, like
It's 8 books, yeah.
it's a lot. It's a lot. And especially when it's one like this where like you really just need to read the books in succession, otherwise you will lose the plot. So
Yes. A
I
lot
think that
happens
definitely
in those books.
yeah.
And I think also people forget that she literally started the series when she was in high school.
Yeah.
So, the original draft she wrote is like on Reddit.
Really?
Yeah, it's like 800 pages. I think she took everything in her mind for the 8 books and put it all into one book.
Sarah don't play. She loves a long book.
She does. She does. That's what makes Crescent City so intimidating to me.
True.
It's like every book's 1,000 pages. Every book is Kingdom of Ash.
Yeah.
I'm here for you if you need me.
Thank
are
you.
you reading for, Kingdom of Ash?
Thanks. Can you pick me up, Mom? I'm scared.
There is one part in particular that I don't know. I just don't even know.
Well, we'll see when we get there. But on that note, I feel like that's a lot of cold open yapping. Should we hop to it? So without further ado, we are going to get into Season 1, Episode 12, Between a Rock and a Bra Place. Original air date, May 11th, 2001. So we start out in the girls' locker room at school, and Miranda says, is there some sort of rule that says every time it's raining we have to play dodgeball? And here I have to highlight just probably my favorite thing of the episode, which is that Miranda has her hair in pigtails, kind of like pigtail bun almost things, but she does have sparkly pink pom-poms in each of the pigtails, and it's my favorite. It's my favorite. Lizzie says it must be in the gym teacher guidebook, and Lizzie is in a blue cami with like a blue sheer top that's got like flowers and I think some birds on it. Mm-hmm. And we don't get it right now, but we get it later. She does have a blue leather jacket.
The blue leather jacket has made several appearances.
It has.
The same one she was wearing in the Marriage Project episode.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So here Miranda observes Jenny Woods and says she has a great arm. She's like the Mike Tyson of dodgeball. And Lizzie says she didn't used to be that way. I mean, she plays the oboe. Oboe players aren't supposed to be violent. Miranda says it's the bra. Ever since she started wearing one, she's become a whole new person. And Lizzie says kind of like someone else we know. Who would that be? Kate. Claire and Kate got one and became popular. Jenny Woods gets one and becomes Brandy Chastain. And animated Lizzie says, if I had one, I'd be Lizzie Warrior Princess. Lizzie's got game. And Miranda says, it's not like she even needs one. I mean, we need one before Jenny does. And Lizzie says, so why don't we have one? And Miranda says, we should have one. And Lizzie says that they're 13. It should be a rule. And Miranda starts to hatch this plan that they need to go to the mall after school. Lizzie says, no, ask your mom. And Miranda's mom is working, so she can't. So Lizzie says, if we ask mine, she'll go with us. And Miranda says, how about we tell her we're shopping for school supplies? And here I say, I thought this then, and I still think this now. What mall is selling school supplies?
I always thought that with this episode.
What school supplies could you need at the mall? None.
I have always thought that in this episode. Like, that makes no sense at all to me.
No sense. Plot hole.
School supplies.
So Lizzie says, Miranda, you know I'm not good at lying. And Miranda says that she'll lie and that Joe can just drop them off. And so animated Lizzie says, a plan this simple has to work. Ooh, I should have seen that one coming. So after the title sequence, we are at the McGuire home and Joe calls out, Lizzie, is that you? And Lizzie cannot even answer her own mother. She whispers to Miranda, what do I say? Miranda says, yeah, Mrs. McGuire, it's us. And she now turns to Lizzie and says, not a word to your mom about the bra. We're going to the mall for school supplies. Repeat after me. School supplies. And Lizzie says, school supplies. Okay, school supplies, school supplies, school supplies. So the girls walk in and greet Mrs. McGuire, and she asks them how school was, and then asks them what's up, and they both in unison, like when she asks how school was, both say fine, and when she says so what's up, they both say nothing.
Joe's radar is like honed in now.
Popping off. And so Joe says that she has another load of laundry to do, and she was going to throw Mr. Snuggles in there, and Lizzie is just zoned out. She's concentrating so much on school supplies that she can't even answer her mom.
Poor Mr. Snuggles. Lizzie's always so embarrassed of him.
I know. You know what? I'm going to reveal something about myself. I am 31 years old and I sleep with 2 stuffed animals every single night of my life.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
I don't think so either. Yeah, it's weird to me because, like, what do people who don't sleep with stuffed animals do with their arms when they sleep?
I still wish I had my stuffed animals because I sleep with my comforter in my arms like this.
See, that's it. I need something
to rest my head on.
Correct. What am I supposed to do? Lay there like a corpse with my arms at my sides? Anyway. So Lizzie zoned out, and Joe is like, hello, Lizzie. And Lizzie says, stuffed animals are for babies. Give them to Matt. And Joe says, but Mr. Snuggles, you've had him since you were 2. He's like your favorite toy. And Lizzie says, was my favorite toy. I don't need toys anymore. I'm an adult now. We are adults now.
I'm texting my mom right now and saying, where is my stuffed animal that I used to sleep with? So through high school, I think I left her at home when I went off to college, which I think I still remember regretting. I had, for my 8th birthday, my best friend, Laura, shout out Laura, gave me a stuffed beagle for my birthday. At the Dothan, Alabama version of Build-A-Bear. It was called Stuff and Fluff. That's where my 8th birthday party was. And Stuff and Fluff, yes. But I had a beagle because Laura had a pet beagle that I loved.
Oh.
And I named her Lisa.
Lisa. Okay.
Because I watched Sister all the time.
Yes.
I'm texting out, do you still have Lisa? If not, I'm going to cry.
If Susan got rid of Lisa for the craft room.
Beagle.
What?
Okay, we'll see what she says.
So here Miranda asks Mrs. McGuire for a ride to the mall, and Joe asks what they need. Miranda says school supplies, and animated Lizzie says, I'm a rock, I'll never crack. And when she says crack, she bangs her fists down on like the counter or whatever she's sitting at, and animated Lizzie fully crumbles.
She does.
Yeah. So Joe keeps pressing and says, school supplies, okay, for what? And Lizzie says, school supplies. Miranda says, for a project. And Joe says, okay, hold that thought, and answers the phone. And here Miranda whispers to Lizzie, what was that? And Lizzie says, school supplies. And so now the girls go upstairs and put up their books. And here enters Matt and Sam and the B-plot. Iconic B-plot.
B-plot.
So apparently Jet Li is looking for a new sidekick, and Matt has found the advertisement in a magazine, and it's the Untitled Jet Li Project. And Matt says, what a great title. And Sam thinks that he's a little young for it, but Matt says, it says right here, ages 10 and above. And Sam says to Joe, honey, what do you think about this? And Joe reads the promo. Your contest entry in the Jet Li Sidekick Sweepstakes can be a video, an essay, or even an audio tape. And she says, I think it's a terrible idea. I don't want him doing this. And here, Sam pops off with the brilliant parenting. And he says, listen, he's not going to win this, so we don't have to tell him no. Someone else will. Meanwhile, we get the credit for being really cool parents. Joe's immediately on board and says, I think it's a great idea, honey. And here, Matt has a wooden cutting board that he bangs into his head. And he says, ow. So Sam asks if he's okay and then says, son, listen, I think we're going to write the best essay this magazine's ever seen. And Matt immediately is like, essay? He says, well, writing isn't my best subject. And Sam says, no worries, son. You're sitting with the guy who won a free trip to Washington, D.C. in 1976 for his brilliant bicentennial essay, America. It's more than just amber waves of grain. And so Matt's like, yeah, great, Dad.
Sounds great.
And so the doorbell rings and Lizzie goes to get it, and it's Gordo. And Lizzie starts to do the classic Lizzie stutter, you can't be here. And Gordo says, and yet I am here. Your mom said we were going to the mall. Joe? Swear.
Oh, no.
So Gordo says hi to Joe, and Joe says hi back, and Miranda is coming down the stairs. She doesn't yet know Gordo's here, and she says, hey, Miss McGuire, I called my mom. She's cool with the mall thing. She clocks Gordo and says, why are you here? Joe says, I invited him. And both girls say, when? And Gordo says, when I just called. And Joe says, I figured if you guys needed school supplies for a project, so does Gordo. And Lizzie says, oh, no, Gordo doesn't need school supplies. And Gordo says, what project? And Miranda says, you're not in that class. And Gordo says, but I'm in all of your classes except for gym. And brilliantly, Lizzie's like, well, then that's it. It's a very secret special gym project that only me and Miranda need to go shopping for. And here, Joe's radar is finally like
I don't know the word for it.
Yeah, here it's at an all-time high. We knew it was tingling, and now like the alarm is actually sounding for Joe.
Yes. Her mom's spidey senses.
She says, "What's the project, Lizzie?" And Miranda goes, and Joe says, "I asked Lizzie." And Lizzie starts stuttering. Joe keeps pressing.
I.
Joe keeps pressing and says, "What do you need at the mall, Lizzie?" And animated Lizzie says, "I'd like to see a lawyer."
Well, okay, why, before we get to the big reveal, why are they acting like this is such, like, a terrible thing to ask your mother? Who else would you ask? Like,
I don't know. And, like, we get to it when we're at the mall, but, like, who else would help you
right.
with that? Like, I would have never taken this on alone.
No.
Not knowing anything about what I know now. Yeah. So here we get the close zoom on Joe's mouth that the show loves to do. And she says, "Lizzie, tell me the truth." And here we go. Iconic. Lizzie says, "I want a bra, okay? A bra, a bra. We want a bra. I want a bra." And it echoes, "Bra, bra, bra, bra." And this is in front of the whole family. Matt and Sam are there, Joe's there, Gordo's there. Everybody's mortified. Everybody's uncomfortable.
The
Matt
shock
said,
on everybody's face is like Gordo's like,
yeah. And so Matt says that that's disgusting. Sam asks if she's a little young for that. And here Joe is like, "Oh, absolutely not. I should have thought about this weeks ago. I would be delighted to take you girls shopping. Let me get my purse." And Gordo says, "Mrs. McGuire, suddenly I don't want to go to the mall with you guys anymore." And Joe says, "That's okay. You're uninvited." And
okay, to say Sam's point here, isn't she young for that? No, she's not.
no.
My point is she's 13 and she's just now getting a training bra.
Yeah.
I have wondered that for 20 years. I'm like, is she talking about getting a big girl bra, or is she talking about going to Limited 2 and getting a training bra?
You know what? That's a really good question and a really good distinction. I mean, me personally, I started wearing a bra when I was like 8 or 9 years old.
Right, like I think 13 is like, what do you mean you're not like?
There is no way you were 13 years old and just raw dogging it every day. There's no way. There's no way.
There's no freaking way. Like,
There's no way.
And if you're a woman, you get that, but if you're a man, then you obviously don't get it. And I think these writers were men because they have no clue.
True. So Sam tries to change the subject, and Matt says, "I'm just glad we don't have to talk about bras anymore." And Gordo says, I have to go home and do something. Anything but this. And Sam invites Gordo to stay to help with the contest entry, and Gordo says that he can go home and get his camera, and Matt says, "That's a great idea." And Gordo says, "All right, I'll be back in 10 minutes. And here Sam starts to deflate. He says, "Buddy, I thought we were going to write an essay." And Matt says, "Dad, let's call that Plan B."
This was such a good B plot. I loved it.
It was. And I have a fact about this, about the B plot.
I think I may know what you're talking about.
You probably do.
Okay.
So we're at the mall, and Lizzie and Miranda are like arguing about, Lizzie having cracked so quickly. And the salesperson comes up and asks if she can help, and Joe's like, "Hi, yeah, we're shopping for their first bra." And she turns to the girls, "This is so cool." And she says, "Where's the little miss section?" Joe, literally what?
Joe can tone it down a little bit. I can understand Lizzie's frustration and embarrassment here. She needs to calm it down a little bit. Maybe take her to Limited 2.
Yep.
Where everyone else got their first bras.
Yeah.
And where there's other girls who are experiencing the same thing.
Not a department store.
No.
No.
Take her to her comfort zone.
Yeah. And so the saleswoman points that the little miss section is over there by the footy pajamas.
She didn't have to say that.
She didn't. That was diabolical.
She did not have to say that.
And so Joe tries to get the girls to follow her, and Lizzie starts to let her embarrassment show and says, "Mom, do you think you could be a little quieter about this?" And Joe says, "About what?" And Lizzie's like, "Oh, nothing." And animated Lizzie says, "Why doesn't she get her own talk show and broadcast it to the world?" And here there's giant lips behind Lizzie that are going, "Bra, bra, 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 bra." Which is funny because when I first saw this, I thought she was saying blah, blah, blah. And then now rewatching it, I'm like, oh, she was definitely saying bra.
I need to go back and watch
just kind of
that.
adds.
Bra, bra, bra.
Yeah. And so the girls start trying to hatch a plan to either ditch her or pretend to get lost. And in doing so, they run into one of their teachers, Mr. Coppersmith. And animated Lizzie says, no, not happening. I'm not running into my cute English teacher in the you-know-what department. Shouldn't he be home handling grammar emergencies? And Mr. Coppersmith says that he is just buying a birthday present for his wife and holds up the most homely-looking nightgown I've ever seen. Respectfully, Ryan, if you ever bring me a homely-looking nightgown for my birthday that I didn't specifically ask for and send you a link for, you're taking it back. Happy birthday! I got you this, like, frilly collared, like, Little House on the Prairie nightgown.
It was giving Little House on the Prairie.
It was giving Little House on the Prairie. It might have been gingham. I don't know.
And speaking of husbands, I just want to point out I was watching this episode, and my husband was like, wait, I remember this, because he has an older sister. And he was like, I don't know anything about this show, but I remember her yelling out, I want a bra!
Amazing. That's how you know it goes down in history as one of the tops.
This has to be in the top 50 of greatest TV episodes ever.
Yes.
In my humble opinion.
Yes. So here Joe wanders up behind the girls with arms filled to the bras.
Galore.
And says, hey girls, I found some really cute things for you guys. Oh, hey, Mr. Coppersmith. And he says hi, and they do the how are you doing thing back and forth, and she starts to hand the girls the bras, and she's like, okay, so why don't you take these into the dressing room and try them on in front of the teacher.
Oh, no. Joe, I give you a lot of credit, but this was not it right here.
Mm.
I give Joe McGuire so much credit, especially, like, watching this as an adult. Like, what she does is, like, peak parenting.
Correct. This wasn't it. This wasn't it.
I hope Joe looked back and realized, like, ooh, maybe that was too much.
Yeah. So the girls wander off, and animated Lizzie says, this has got to be enough to get me into the witness relocation program. So we are back at the McGuire home, and Gordo shows back up with his camera, and Matt is upstairs getting ready, and Sam says, I got some interview questions for you. And Gordo reads them off. What's your name? How old are you? Where do you go to school? And Sam says, that is my absolute favorite. Like, these required any kind of, like, brain power.
Any depth of knowledge.
Yeah. And so Gordo says that they're great questions, but there are some other ways we can go. And so Matt comes down in his, like, I guess kind of like karate getup. He's in, like, all white, kind of like a belted coat situation, and a scarf tied around his head that is very clearly from Joe's closet, because it is like a white chiffon scarf with like beige polka dots on it. And so Gordo says, looking good, Matt. So I was thinking we shoot a couple of establishing shots. Matt raking the Zen garden, and Sam interrupts him and says, we don't have a Zen garden. And what about my questions? And Gordo's trying to land it nicely and says, questions aren't very, and Matt says, boring. Of course, Sam is personally attacked, and Gordo says, Mr. McGuire, if Matt's going to win this thing, we need something big, something that's going to set his entry apart from the rest. And Sam's like, okay, Gordo, what do you suggest? And Gordo says, I think we need to shoot our own martial arts movie. And Matt says, you are way too cool to be Lizzie's friend. And so we are back at the mall, and the girls are in the dressing room trying to decide what to do. And here I have to point out, we didn't get, like, the full length of Lizzie's outfit in the gym locker room, but here she is wearing some adorable suede orange clogs.
Yes, and Miranda had on some sort of clogs, too.
I think hers were brown.
Yeah.
But yes, I love the clogs. I still love a clog moment.
I do, too.
Love. I have a pair of $20 Target clogs, and I probably get more compliments on that particular pair of shoes than any other pair of shoes I own.
I love some clogs.
Love. And I love when they're wooden, and you can just hear me clomping up and down the hallway. What a treat.
Yes.
And so Miranda says, well, we're supposed to be adults, right? And Lizzie says, so? And Miranda says, so tell her we want to shop alone. And Lizzie tries to put it back on Miranda. If you're so adult, why don't you tell her? And they go back and forth. You tell her. I'm not telling her. And Joe here yanks open the dressing room curtains and says, tell me what? And here, when you get a full shot of where they are, like, literally the cash register is directly across from these dressing rooms.
Yes.
Like, it is in the middle of this store. wondered if they were like down a hallway like they are, like I'm thinking of like a Belk or something where they're like down a
They're-
hallway and you have to like go, but like literally these dressing rooms are just curtains and they're directly in front of the cash register. Are you kidding me? Yeah. And so Lizzie, of course, is like, Mom, I could have been changing. And Joe says, oh, honey, it's just us girls here. And like, literally, no, it's not. Like, you can see the saleswoman behind the cash register.
And who knows? There could have been a man there.
There could have been a man that Mr. Coppersmith was there not too long ago.
Exactly.
And so Joe is like shoving more bras in, saying she brought more stuff to try on. And Lizzie's like, we can find things on our own. And Joe's like, okay, I'm just trying to help. And here Lizzie starts really lighting it up. She says, we don't need your help. And Joe says, okay, what do you need? And Lizzie says, we need you to leave us alone, okay? You're always going on about what little adults we are. And when we try and act like adults, you treat us like children. We're not children, okay? We're just not. I'm like, Lizzie.
I would have been yanked out of that mall.
Same.
No.
By the hair.
Yeah, I would have been yanked.
By the butterfly clip.
There is no way on God's green earth my mother would have continued to let me stay in that mall if I threw that hissy fit.
No. And so Joe says, okay, here's $40. I'm going to be in the food court. You come find me when you're all finished, okay? And like, you can see that Joe has like deflated through this, but you also know that like in this moment, this was the right move for Joe. And so Miranda says, that wasn't exactly the way I pictured the adult conversation between you and your mom. And Lizzie says, well, me neither, but a girl's got to do what a girl's got to do. And here Miranda immediately hones in on the cash. And she says, on the plus side, we're alone in the mall with your mom's cash.
$40.
$40. Hey, you know what? $40 in 2001 would have gone
that would have gone a long way.
$40 in today's climate would have bought you half of one bra. And so Lizzie starts to feel a little guilty here and says, I know I got exactly what I wanted, so why don't I feel any better? And so a little bit later, we get the girls back at the rack trying to make sense of what's going on there and saying, this is so much easier without my mother hanging around. And Miranda says, exactly. So what are we looking for? And Lizzie says, I don't know. I thought you knew. And Miranda is like, I thought I did too, but there's all these numbers and letters, 34, 32, 36, A's, B's, C's. And Lizzie says, well, I mean, Kate owns one, right? How hard can it be? We are now back at the McGuire home, and they are beginning to shoot Matt's movie. And Gordo is, I guess, like the guest star of the movie.
Director?
And he's like director and guest star.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
And so Gordo, in his like dialogue in the movie, says, you never should have come back here, Matthew son. Now I will be forced to destroy you. And I love the nod to like the dubbed action flicks where the lip sync doesn't match the audio.
Yes, I know.
Which I'm like, is this like a little bit racist? Probably.
Oh no.
And so here we get, you know, the fight sequence for the original cut of the movie, and we head back to the mall. And in comes Kate.
Of course she had to show up.
Yeah, who says, what are you guys doing here? And Claire says, you must be lost. The dork section is on the first floor. And animated Lizzie says, is there some kind of rule that Kate and her posse have to witness every moment of misery in my life? And in this sequence, animated Lizzie bends over and rips her pants. And so Lizzie and Miranda say that they're shopping, and Claire says, for what? They don't sell underoos here. And enter Claire's mom, who catches up with Claire and Kate, and Miranda goes, I can't believe you're shopping with Claire's mom. And Lizzie says, yeah, we don't have to shop with our mom. And so Claire's mom greets them and says, hi, I haven't seen you girls around for a while. Where's your mom? And Lizzie says, oh, we get to shop by ourselves. And Claire's mom says, by yourselves. So do you need any help? And Lizzie is very quick to go, no. And Miranda says, we're fine. And so she says to tell the moms that she said hi, and Claire has to land one last blow. The footy pajamas are over there in the toddler section, which we already know the footy pajamas are next to the Little Miss section.
Yeah, we already know that, Claire.
And Kate says, good one. And they do their little handshake with the hair flip.
My gosh.
We're back at the McGuire home, and Sam is getting his cameo in Matt's movie. He's in, like, what clearly is probably Joe's, like, bathrobe. It's like a red kimono, but he's only got it draped over his shoulders, and so he's reading his line, "Only when the student can take the pebble from the master does the student become Jet Li's sidekick." And Sam doesn't understand the concept that he's supposed to be, like, closing his hand, trying to prevent Matt from getting it, so Matt just snatches it. And Gordo cuts and says, "This is the climax of the movie, so it's important that you stick to the script," and explains the concept that he needs to be closing his hand. And so Sam says, "I'm sorry, Gordo, but I don't think a kung fu ripoff is as effective as a well-written and perfectly grammatically correct essay." And Matt says, "What are you talking about? It's totally better." And Sam says, "Well, you two seem to have a better feel for this stuff than I do, so I'll just leave you to it." And so Sam walks inside, and you think that he's all, like, down and out about it, but Sam is actually making a phone call. So Sam makes a phone call to someone named David and says, "I need a favor. Are you still teaching Kung Fu?" And so we are back at the mall again. The girls are so lost. They have no idea what they're doing. Animated Lizzie says, "I need Mr. Snuggles." And Miranda says, "This was a total mistake. Maybe we're not ready." And Lizzie says, "I don't need a salesperson, and I don't need Miss Miller. Miranda, I think I need my mom." Miranda says, "That's the best idea you've had all day." And so they head to the food court to find Joe. And so we are back at the McGuire home, and Gordo has taken on Sam's part in the red kimono, and Gordo is again and again struggling to deliver the lines. You keep getting the cuts where he's like, "Only once the pebble has been taken from the student master, only once has the master given, student taken from the pebble, Jet Li's sidekick."
Which I was wondering there if that was planned or if Adam Lambert, the actor that plays Gordo, was actually struggling to read the lines.
I don't know. That would be, like, I always love it when you get those organic moments that end up kind of, like, working for the point in the script that they are, and they just kind of, like, keep it.
Yeah.
Like, this has nothing to do with that. But did you know that in The Princess Diaries, when Mia is walking up and down the bleachers and she slips and falls, that wasn't part of the movie. That was just something that happened and they just kept it in.
I think I've read that before.
Yeah. But after Gordo struggles to give his lines, you get a sequence of the boys fighting over the pebble. And Matt says, "Gordo, we've done this 7 times already. Aren't we done yet?" And Gordo says, "I'm sorry, Matt. This was a lot easier with your father helping." And they decide to go get him. And as they're doing that, Sam walks up and says, "Guys, I told you, I really don't know much about this Kung Fu stuff, but I know someone who does." And in wanders this mysterious David that he was on the phone with, and he says, "Hello, young grasshopper." And he also wanders in barefoot. I just feel like that's, like, important to know.
Of course he did.
And so Matt says, "Dad, why is he calling me grasshopper?" And Sam says, "Just go with it, son." And David says, "Your father tells me that you wish to be a martial artist." And Matt says, "Yeah, Jet Li's sidekick." And David says, "I have much to teach you, but you must be willing to learn." And Matt says, "Okay." And so we're back at the mall, and the girls have found Joe in the food court and asked if they have finished their shopping, and they say, "Not exactly." And Joe says, "Listen, I'm really sorry." And Lizzie says, "You know what, Mom?" And Joe cuts her off and says, "Let me finish. I remember when I was 13, and my mom would take me shopping and would do everything imaginable to embarrass me, and I promised myself I would never act like that with my own daughter." And Lizzie says, "Mom, you didn't act that way." And Joe says, "You're right. I was worse. And you are becoming adults. And I should have just let you do it on your own. And I'm sorry." And Miranda goes, "No, you really shouldn't have." And Lizzie says, "And we're not adults." And Miranda agrees, "Not even close." And so Lizzie says, "And the temper tantrum I just threw in the dressing room? Not exactly adult material. So I'm really sorry." And Miranda apologizes too. And Lizzie says, "I guess sometimes the adult thing to do is ask for help." And here Joe is like, "You guys didn't buy anything, did you?" And they say no. And Joe says, "Well, let's go shopping. Give me my $40. And Lizzie goes, "Ah!" And Animated Lizzie says, "They forget to sign your field trip forms, forget that you don't like liverwurst, but they never forget when they give you cash." And here, Animated Lizzie extracts both a sandwich and cash from an ATM. And so we are back at the McGuire house, and we get a full-on Kung Fu lesson sequence. And we saw in the original sequence that Matt was trying to, like, either kick or karate chop wooden things in half and couldn't do it. So Matt, after this Kung Fu lesson, can now kick a rake in half, can karate chop a wooden chair in half. And after the sequence, David says, class dismissed. And so David is now stepping in to be the pebble master and repeats the lines. And Matt says, Master, why do you close your hand? He says, you have many questions, Grasshopper, but I have a question for you, Matt. And here's Sam's moment to shine, because Sam holds up a notepad with an interview question. You know that Sam wrote this question. And the question is, what is it that qualifies you to be the best choice to become Jet Li's sidekick? And Matt says, well, I'm smart and funny, and I do my own stunts. And he does this, like, thing where he, like, kind of, like, just waves his hands in, like, rapid succession and then snatches the pebble. And he says, woohoo, who's your grasshopper now? And Gordo says, cut, that's a wrap. And David says, my work is done. Matt says, Dad, high five, you're the coolest. And Gordo says, Mr. McGuire, who was that guy? And Sam says, Gordo, I've known him all my life. He's like a brother to me. And here, I think this is where you know what I know. That is his real life brother.
Yes.
Yeah, and that was always interesting. Like, I remember when I watched this as a kid, like, my dad must have been in and out of the room, and, like, my dad clocked that. He's like, oh, that's David Carradine. That's, like, he's like, you see Lizzie's dad? That's his real life brother. And so I thought that was really neat.
Yes, I thought that was a...
Definitely one of those things they put in for the parents.
Oh, yeah. That was a good nod to his other acting credits.
It was. And so we are on our daily iconic three-way call, and Lizzie says, I can't believe you spent all afternoon with Matt and my dad. And Gordo says, hey, Matt and your dad are pretty cool. We made a kung fu movie, and considering the alternative, I'd say it was a good choice. And Lizzie says she doesn't think there will be any more girl-only shopping trips for a while. And Miranda says it's safe to go to the mall again. And Gordo says, cool. But when you guys start talking about going shopping for school supplies, let me know when you mean school supplies or school supplies. And they both said deal. And animated Lizzie says, my work here is done. Hi-ya! And Lizzie's in her own little, like, animated Lizzie's in her own, like, karate uniform. And so it's the very end, and we get Sam answering the house phone, and he says, hello, this is Matt McGuire's father. You're calling from the Jet Li sidekick contest? He won? Matt's going to be Jet Li's sidekick? And the episode that ends with Sam screaming. And that's it. We get an additional sequence of the audition tape, which is really just like the credits, and it's like written, directed, and starring David Gordo, starring Matt McGuire, and yeah.
Special guest star.
David Carradine.
Yes. Oh, I honestly forgot all about this B plot. So
same.
I remember that he made a movie at some point, but I felt like Matt did that several times throughout the series. But I don't know, that was a good little B plot.
It was a good little B plot, and
I liked it better than the cave.
Yeah, it was a better B plot than the cave. And I like seeing, like, Gordo getting to interact with other characters. Like, I thought that this was fun to get to see him doing, like, a boys thing while the girls go do a girl thing.
Yes, for sure. For sure.
So, favorite line, favorite outfit. There's not a lot to choose from since the whole episode takes place over the course of one day.
That, like, when I thought about it, I was like, this was one afternoon after school.
Yep.
So much happened. I guess I really liked her blue leather jacket. That's all I had to choose from, and I've picked that before. I'm gonna try to find something different than I want a bra, because like, that's the obvious.
It is, yeah.
I think when Gordo walks in, and she's like, you're not supposed to be here? And he's like, and yet I am.
And yet I am.
That was it for me.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously for me, it was Miranda's pink pom-poms. I did like Miranda's whole outfit. She was in, like, brown and pink. And I love both girls' pairs of clogs. Love a clog.
Oh, yeah.
Favorite line? Favorite line has to be Sam. I've known him all my life. He's almost like a brother to me. Because we appreciate that more now than we did then.
Yes. Back then, I would have been like, okay. Okay. Oh my gosh.
Well, any other wrapping up?
I don't think so. This was as good as I remembered. It is memorable considering the fact that my husband, who never can recall an episode of Lizzie McGuire ever, but can
Yeah.
recall this one.
Yeah, for sure.
Think is interesting, but yeah.
Yeah.
What are your closing thoughts?
Probably the same thing. There's probably parts of this that really don't hold up, and I think we both made the point that, like, the plot in and of itself, that they're getting their first bras at age 13, like, seems a little bit off. But still, like, I mean, just amazing, beautiful mother-daughter moments, like,
Yes.
full circle for everybody, how Jo and her parenting is, like, I said that I would never do the same thing that my mom did, and here I did it, and even worse, and Lizzie's full circle moment saying, like, you know what, I needed my mom, and, like, the adult thing to do was ask for help, and so I think, I mean, even though that's a little, like, after school special, like, here's the lesson, like, I mean, sometimes that is the adult thing to do, is ask for help.
And I felt kind of like Lizzie and Matt's storylines, like, since both of their parents were heavily involved, like, Matt kind of also realized, like, oh, I need my dad's help
Yep.
in this as well. So they both had a touching, like, emotional parent-child moment. So
Yes.
I thought that was pretty neat.
Well, amazing. Well, next week we're going to be covering season 1, episode 13, Come Fly With Me.
This is when Gordo gets into Rat Pack.
Yep, I was about to say. So, like, it's kind of funny because the little, like, Google description says, when Gordo's passion for lounge culture becomes the latest passing fad at school. Girl, what is lounge culture?
So I watched the first scene of this because it just started playing after I finished the other one, and he's really into, like, 1940s.
Yes. I just don't know why they wouldn't have said Rat Pack or, like, something like that. Maybe Rat Pack is trademarked. That's a distinct possibility.
Who knows? Yeah. I was like, but the first of this episode, I was like, he's talking like, what?
Yeah. I feel like this is going to be one of those that when we talk about our next block of, like, 10 total episodes, this is going to be one that was, like, an underrated favorite.
Yes, I agree.
Well, I think that's all we have for you guys this week. Thank you so much for listening. If you like us, please subscribe and rate us 5 stars on whatever platform you choose to listen on. And we would love it if you'd share us with a friend. Also, you can find us on socials. We are the Outfit Repeaters Pod. And until next week, we're outie.